Recording, and I'd like to welcome you all to our Tuesday 1:30 p.m. session with our returning guest, Infinite Legacy, where Dwight will be talking about organ donation. And thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to read our disclaimer before we get started. The WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners and presenters offer technical assistance, virtual health well-being information designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on the information, any apps or topics made by WildTech, including but not limited to mobile device applications, and any social media pages maintained by WildTech, its owners, or presenters as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or legal advice. Thank you so much for letting me read the disclaimer. If you cannot see me, hear me, or see the screen, same thing with Dwight, please let us know in the chat. We would appreciate that. Let's make sure to keep our TVs and cell phones silenced to give others and ourselves the most immersive experience. And as always, please make sure to take notes and or screenshots so you can review the information for later. Okay. Other than that, Dwight, if you could introduce yourself and your topic for today. Thank you so much for coming on. And I really appreciate your presentation today. And
Thank
thanks
you
so
so
much.
much. I appreciate you as well. Thank you. Hello again, everybody. My name is Dwight R. Smith. The R stands for Robust on Tuesdays. So today, I actually presented with this group before about organ donation. And so today, I want to go a little bit more into the actual process of what entails step by step, pretty much how the organ donation happens, not just in the DMV, but throughout all the nation, through with all the OPOs. So today, I work for Infinite Legacy, which is the local OPO, Organ Procurement Organization. And today I'm going to actually be talking about, share with all participants. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to share my thing. Trying to share my screen right now. Boop, there we go. That's what I was supposed to hit. And so here we go. Today we're going to be talking about Donate Life, Washington, D.C., and the organ donation process step by step. So for everybody who is not aware, Donate Life, I can actually go to the next slide. Donate Life DC is actually the nonprofit national organization that is responsible for managing the donor registry list. So everybody who signs up to be a donor, the list is managed by Donate Life America, and each state has its own chapter. So we're talking more specifically about Donate Life DC. We work closely with federally designated nonprofit organ procurement organizations serving DC, which would be Infinite Legacy. And it's basically a very similar mission and vision to Infinite Legacy, which is about educating the community about organ, eye, and tissue donation and how to register as a donor in DC. So every Washingtonian can make an educated decision about organ, eye, and tissue donation and registering as a donor. And DLDC's mission is about saving and enhancing lives by, again, registering for organ, eye, and tissue donation. And so I always like to still state, because we're in the DC area and we're all throughout the DMV, Infinite Legacy, which is the OPO for the DMV area. And so that's who we always closely partner with, DLDC and Infinite Legacy, though not the same thing, partner closely together and still talk about and educate about the same thing, organ, eye, and tissue donation. So a little bit more about Infinite Legacy. If you are unaware, our service area holds about 10 million citizens of America throughout all of DC, all of Maryland, and all of Northern Virginia more specifically. So that's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the DMV area, if you are unaware. We partner with 68 different hospitals throughout the DMV, 8 different transplant centers, and of course, we work with all the DC Department of Motor Vehicles. So whenever you see a Donate a Life brochure in one of those, it's going to be a Donate Life DC brochure, actually, with, I believe, John's on the front of them. When you see one of those, I'm the representative for all the DC DMVs, so I always go in monthly and refill them and talk to the employees as well to ask them if they have any questions or if they encountered any questions throughout the month that some customers of the DMV might have asked them basically while they were there, because as most of us maybe know or are aware of, that the DMV has the form, and at the bottom of those forms, it's the box checking it if you would want to be a registered organ donor. So, a little bit about the actual donation process itself. It starts with the hospital referral. So, when it comes to the hospital referral, that is basically the back end of the administration side of the hospitals. So, not the doctors or the nurses or even the ambulance drivers, not any of them per se. This would actually be the administration side, who doesn't really see or deal with patients. These are the people who are only aware of, you know, not really the status of a patient, but the information when it comes to what medical treatments they have gotten already from the doctors or the nurses, also what insurance carriers they have, all of that background information. Those are the only people in hospitals who actually know what your organ donation status is, and it plays no part in what medical treatment you get. I'm not sure if this is a question. If it's a question, okay, it's not. Thank you, Alexander, for dropping that link in the chat. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure you raise your hand and I will get to you as soon as I see you. So it starts with a hospital referral. Hospital referrals only take place after the doctors and nurses have expressed to the administration side that they have exhausted all life-saving measures and procedures. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that person who's being treated will be an organ donor. It does not mean that they will be an organ donor. That just means that, unfortunately, all measures have been taken. So we have to prepare, if that is the case, that they will donate. We have to be prepared for that, because as soon as they are pronounced deceased, the medical departments then move in to procure the organs. Of course, there are many tests that are run to make sure the person is deceased before any type of procurement actually takes place. I'm getting ahead of myself though. I gotta click back on this. Here we go. So before we even get to that part, there's an on-site assessment. This is the part of the part of the donation process where the medical staff that the OPO, Infinite Legacy, sends in and actually assesses if the person's organs and or tissues are eligible for transplantation and to be procured. Because not everybody who registers and passes away in a hospital in a way where you can be a donor is healthy enough or any other circumstance enough to be a donor. So we always love it when people register, but unfortunately not everybody can be after passing away. Of course, the next step in the process is the family conversion and authorization. So this is the part where we send in our family services department to actually talk to the family members about what this process and what the actual procurement process is going to entail and how it will affect the proceedings and moving forward. And they basically tell them every part they need to know, and then they have them sign papers and everything. If the donor is a first person authorized donor, which means they registered when they were alive to be a donor after they were deceased, then the family services talks the family through what the process is. If the person did not sign up to be a donor, then the family services goes to the next of kin, the family members, and asks them about whether or not they would want, or the family member who is deceased wanted to be a donor. And so that would be family authorization and conversion. The next part would be the actual allocation and the recipient notification. So after the procurement of the organs and or tissues, then we allocate it to UNOS, which is the United Network of Organ Sharing. And then they're able to match it in their systems with their criteria that have to be met, which is mostly medical. And if they find a recipient within the area, they're able to call them and let that recipient know that they have an organ, they have a life-saving organ for them. And then, of course, That's when, while that is happening, because we don't actually pick who it goes to, that, like I said, that would happen for UNOS. UNOS would actually do the matching of the criteria, and they have the list of the transplant waiters who are waiting for a life-saving transplant. So they're able to contact them. And so while they're doing that, the Infinite Legacy team is on site at the hospital procuring the organ. So that's when they begin the organ recovery and also then the tissue recovery. Of course, if no organs are available to be transplanted or to be procured for any number of reasons, any number of medical reasons, then of course that part is skipped for tissue recovery. And also it works the other way around as well. Sometimes organs can be recovered, but sometimes, depending on the way the person passed away, their tissues cannot be recovered, even though, to be honest, that one is less likely. Its tissues are usually recoverable. And then, of course, we have family support after all of that. We have a aftercare department at Infinite Legacy. All of those members of that team are trained in grieving counseling, as well as the family services department, who actually goes into the hospitals and talks to the family members. But the aftercare team is more so about creating programs and different, not incentives, but different care packages that we send to families and programs that families can be a part of if they choose to be. One of the biggest things that family support is all about, and the aftercare team is all about, is connecting the recipient to the donor's family if both parties agree to it. If one party does and one does not, then it cannot happen until both parties agree to want to know the information on the other person. For most people, for most recipients, they only get to know their donor's name and only first name at that, and not really any other information. Of course, like I said, unless the family members agree to it. And then we have a hospital follow-up. We have a hospital services team that has many medical service members on site. They usually do the follow-up just to make sure everything, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. I'm not saying that phrase right, but it's something similar to that. The hospital services team is always on site. They have no say-so, obviously, in how a patient gets treated. But again, when there is a situation where unfortunately all life-saving measures have been taken and been exhausted, and it still looks like the person's health is on the decline, the hospital services member who is on site at the hospital all the time is brought into the medical team just so they can be aware of the situation and so they can have their own notes. So if that does come to fruition, when the organ and or tissue recovery teams get on site, they can talk to another Infinite Legacy member, and then they'll let them know what's going on and exactly what needs to happen. So at no point is an Infinite Legacy member, team member, involved in any decisions, any medical decisions or life treating decisions at all. So that was a huge overlook at the donation process step by step. I was thinking that was a little more fun one to do because not a lot of people actually understand the step-by-step process. So I wanted to make sure you all did. So if you have any questions on that, be sure to raise your hand. But of course, we always want to make sure we understand what this donation process is about and also why are we doing it? Exactly what is it about? So I see, before I move on, I see I have Ann Dennis. You have your hand raised. You
Yeah.
can go ahead and unmute. What question did you have for me, Miss
Oh,
Ann?
thank you, Dwight, for answering. I have to unmute them, so
Oh, okay.
I'll be able to let you know, see if we have a hand. Okay. But thank you, Anne. You have a question or a comment about anything presented so far for Dwight?
I'd like, I have two questions for you. Uh, uh, if the person wants to be a donor, and do they need to put that in their will?
Thank you for the question, obviously. So if the person wants to be a donor, they can put it in their will. I always believe that two faster ways to do it because the process itself the procurement process where we actually procure the organs and or tissues, it has to be a rather speedy one after the person is pronounced deceased. And so you can put it in your will, but two faster ways to do it to ensure that people can get the organs if needed is one, registering either at the DMV or online at donatelifeamerica.net. Or if you go to infinitelegacy.org that Alexander put into the chat, you'll find a link to the website where you can register online. That way, the administrative side will know and they'll be able to reach out to Infinite Legacy right away. Or the second way is to tell your family members, which we always encourage, no matter what decision you make, tell your family members about all afterlife decisions so they know how to best respect your wishes.
All right, Dwight. Now, my second question is, if you have done that and then it's also in your will, can the person who is in charge of your medical and your the executor of your will change that because they do not want to do it?
So legally, no, they cannot. Nothing in your will can be changed. It is a legally binding contract that cannot be changed by anybody of an executive order type of way. To be 100% honest, I am not 100% sure about the legal side when it comes to the will. I know if you register on through Donate Life, that is a 100% binding contract and nobody can change that. And I believe nobody can change your will as well, but that's something you would have to talk to either a lawyer about or something.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if you have that in your will and somebody disagrees, like my son or my granddaughter or somebody, can they challenge that? That's what I was asking, really.
So there have been instances that Infinite Legacy has run into, from my knowledge, where a person registered to be a donor, but then after passing, their family members were not having it, and they challenged it. And I do know only in very very small amounts of cases where the where Infinite Legacy did not move forward because the family it wasn't just like one person, it was a whole family who were very insistent. And the last thing Infinite Legacy wants to be seen, we do not Infinite Legacy doesn't want to be seen in a negative light, because then that will shine a negative light on the
On
organ donation process, which of
Okay,
course we do not want.
yeah, and I understand that. Now, my third question is, if the person dies at home or in an automobile accident, how soon can you, how soon after the person dies and is found does that have to be done?
So if the person is deceased and blood has stopped running, as the heart has stopped pumping blood to the organs, then those organs cannot be procured. They would not be
Okay,
able to be transplanted. So it depends on if the person is actually still breathing, still alive. So that's a case by case basis.
okay, all right. Thank you. I really appreciate you giving us this information.
No problem. And that's only half of it. I still got more.
Yeah,
So thank you,
yeah,
Miss
I
Ann.
probably have another question later too.
I'll be here
Um,
for it.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you so much, Anne. We have another question from Geraldine, or a comment. Any
I
comments?
well, listen now. I don't know if this is a smart question, but is there an age limit on tissue donation and organ donations? Now I know for the eyes, you can give your eyes at any age if your eyes are good. I imagine you can give your eyes. But what about other organs? Is there an age limit, do you think?
Well, thank you for asking that question, Ms. Smith. So there is not an age limit to sign up to be a registered organ donor.
Yeah.
When it comes to donation, it's more about health and medical.
How healthy you are.
It depends on it does have something to do with your health, how healthy you are. We always tell people do not count yourself out, especially
Okay.
when it comes to age. because I get a lot when I'm out at events in DC and I'm tabling, and I always get it from senior citizens when they walk up to the table and I tell them what we're doing, and they're like, "Oh, nobody wants my stuff," and I'm like, "No, an
Yeah,
3-year-old might want it." So
yeah,
never
yeah.
count yourself out. It's all about health and how it's upkept. You can also still do tissue donation as well. So there is no age limit on it.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Geraldine.
All right, folks. So moving forward, um, now, like I was saying, when we're talking about the donation process, we want to make sure that we also know why we're talking about the donation process. This is about saving lives. One organ donor can save up to 8 to 9 lives. Now, because it's 8 to 9 lives, there are actually only, I believe, 6 transplantable organs at the moment. I'll just show you guys actually. It's the heart, and then we have the liver, which can be 2. I'll get to that in a second. Lungs, 2 kidneys, pancreas, and the small intestine. I actually forgot if it was the big or small one, so I'm happy it says small. And the small intestine, more specifically. Now, obviously, you have 2 kidneys. Obviously, you have 2 lungs. If you notice, next to liver, it says 2 as well. If you are not aware, if you split your liver in half, your liver is the only regenerative organ within the human body. So if you split it in half, it can grow back. And so you can cut a piece and actually donate it to, oh, excuse me, and donate it to somebody on the transplant waiting list who needs a liver. So those are actually, I don't think I touch on living donation here because we don't really deal with living donation. Infinite Legacy does deceased donation, but when it comes to living donation, you can give one of your kidneys or a piece of your liver when it comes to liver donation, when it comes to organ living donation. And of course, we can also enhance lives when it comes to tissue donation. Each tissue donation can benefit approximately 75 patients. The different transplantable tissues are heart valves, the corneas, which is the front part of your eye, not the whole eyeball, but just the front part of your eye, the bone, more specifically bone marrow, skin tissues, which is the most common one, tendons and ligaments, and veins. So when it comes to heart valves, tendons/ligaments, and veins, those are usually used in surgery if somebody needs surgery and they need those, whatever they cut to get into the body for surgery, they usually have to replace with donated tissues, such as veins and heart valves. And these are just 2 pictures that just kind of give you more of a view of exactly what we're looking at, what we're talking about when it comes to the valves, the specific types of valves, because there are multiple ones. And also the corneas, as I just told you, when it comes to the front part. And if you are unaware, you can, even if you need glasses or any type of visual aid, you could potentially still be a cornea donor. So don't count yourself out from that either, just because you have to wear glasses like myself. So shout out to everybody in the 4 Eyes gang. Whoop whoop. And when it comes to donation, there are other life-saving opportunities besides just transplantation. Of course, the first line that we always check, and the one that we prefer, to be honest, is for it to go to a recipient. But unfortunately, sometimes either an organ isn't healthy enough to be given to somebody, or maybe there was a situation where they could not find a donor recipient in time, or it's not close enough. The person's not close enough to receive the organ, which thankfully does not happen too much. But in those cases, we still want to make sure that those donated organs and tissues go towards the right causes, which in this case would be research, education, and therapy. Those are what also donated organs are used for as well. Of course, when it comes to researching exactly different aspects of those organs and hopefully finding a cure in the future. When it comes to education, it's helpful to help train doctors and nurses of the future and of today. And of course, therapy, which I need to get a little bit more research on myself and see exactly how they're used for therapy. And then also we have whole body donation on here as well. Now, Infinite Legacy does not actually do whole body donation, but that's just another life-saving donation opportunity that we wanted to make sure people knew about and that most people do know about. And a lot of people, a good amount of people I've actually met are actually interested in. So if you are, I'm pretty sure I know of a website and organization in DC that does talk more about whole body donation. So when it comes to Infinite Legacy / Donate Life within the community, I am a part of the community outreach department. If I didn't say earlier, I'm the community outreach coordinator for DC and Montgomery County areas. And of course, we have multiple community outreach coordinators on the team throughout the DMV area, multiple in Northern Virginia, multiple in Eastern Shore and Baltimore County, people up in what's above Montgomery County? Fredericksburg, and even Southern Maryland counties and PG County as well. We have people, and we're always growing our team to make sure we can cover those areas, get out to as many community events and to as many community establishments as possible in order to spread education and awareness about organ donation faster is preferably faster than the myths and misconceptions and quell some of the concerns the communities, all the different communities within the DMV has when it comes to organ donation. So like I was saying, you will see us in our either Infinite Legacy shirts or Donate Life shirts or TDP shirts, which stands for the Decision Project. We'll be at community events. We also work with our communications, excuse me. We also work with our communications department to create public service announcements and different, you'll probably see those on buses or bus stops, just spreading the information about organ donation awareness and getting people to think about it a little bit more so they can do their own research if need be. And also we highlight stories to motivate others to become organ, eye, and tissue donors. You'll find a ton of them on our website at infinitelegacy.org that Alexander shared in the chat. You will find a bunch there and also on our social medias, which I will be sure to share with you all at the end here, which speaking of, oh, no, we're not there yet. So of course, when it comes to donation awareness, we love to make sure that we're spearheading. Donate Life America has multiple different awareness campaigns that they spread throughout the year to ensure that people are paying attention to organ donation or tissue donation in one way or another. So these are just the ones, by the way, that Donate Life spearheads, which are the National Donate Life Month, which is April, which contains Blue and Green Day, which I believe is either the 12th or the second Friday of April. They also have National Pediatric Transplant Week in April, which I believe is the last week of April. August is National Minority Donor Awareness Month. And the National DMV Appreciation Month is September. And like I said, those are just the ones Donate Life spearheads. Each month pretty much is covered in some form of fashion. I won't speak on what this month is. I'm afraid I actually did forget. I believe this month is Eye Donor Awareness Month. It is something that has to do with eye donation. And I'm not sure if this month is Liver Donation Awareness Month or if that was last month, but pretty much every month they're highlighting one. Maybe not Donate Life, but one of the OPOs throughout the nation or any number of organ and tissue awareness organizations are bringing and championing those campaigns during one of the many months in the year.
No, November is Eye Donation Month, by the way.
Ooh, yeah, I'm good at my job. Thank you, Alexander, for the assist. So why is organ, eye, and tissue donation so important? Of course, we already talked about it saves lives, it enhances lives. And of course, it's about the people whose lives that are being enhanced, whose lives are being saved. That's all about them. Some of you may know somebody who has been a recipient, who has been the family member of a donor. Some of you may be family members of donors or recipients. But nationally, there are over 100,000 people waiting on the transplant waiting list, which is about an average wait of about 5 to 8 years for people who are on that list. Every 9 minutes, someone new is added, and about 15 to 17 people pass away every day waiting for a life-saving transplant. And even though those are numbers, we always stress the fact that you have to remember these are people, these are mothers, brothers, sisters, workers, aunties, all sorts of people that you interact with throughout your daily lives that you may not know about. And so these are people who need our help. And that's who I'm representing. But more specifically, when it comes to DC, these numbers are from August 9th. The disclosure that they are from August 9th. These numbers are a bit different as of right now. I just pulled them at the beginning of November. Sorry, I didn't update this. But the November numbers are about, I believe, sitting around 1,200 people total waiting in Washington, D.C., who are on the transplant waiting list. Those 1,200 people are the people that I represent whenever I go out to the community events, whenever I go out anywhere in D.C. and talk to people and try my best to educate people and enhance their awareness of organ, eye, and tissue donation and try to dispel some of these myths and misconceptions that seem to be floating around wherever I go in the DMV. And I try my best to make sure I put them to rest, basically. Going one by one here. I'll let you all know exactly how they come into play and what the facts are. So the first one I see here, not everything will be done to save my life. This one is a very, very common one. It is, making sure I'm reading the rest, it is actually the most common one that I have received in my year and 3 months of working for the company. It is the most common one I get. Not everything will be done to save my life. That is false. As I was saying earlier towards the beginning of the presentation, when it comes to the whole donation process, that's why I highlighted that hospital referral part so specifically, because not the nurses, anybody who works in ICU, pretty much the doctors, the ambulance drivers who may have to go and actually pick up patients, none of those people are aware of your organ donor status, and so it plays no part in any life-saving procedures that they decide to do. The only people who are aware are people who are administration who don't even see patients, from my understanding. And like I said, any Infinite Legacy members who are on site at a hospital have no say-so, no decision-making rights for any patient's well-being or caring or procedures or treatments. Another one, it's against my religion. Infinite Legacy and the multiple OPOs throughout the nation have done the research, and every major religion within the United States, they have already confirmed with those religions and done the research, like I said, that all the major ones do support organ, eye, and tissue donation after. I don't know if it's actually just after life. I think just in general. I actually do encounter a lot of Muslim citizens when I'm in DC and Montgomery County who actually, dismiss it right away because they believe it is against their faith. And I recently found out from a wonderful man who founded, along with his partner, there was a wonderful guy. What was his name? Is Ali Kareem, I believe, and he founded a nonprofit organization called Muslims Life Planning, where he does not only advocate, but he has multiple stories about how it is within their religious rights to still be organ donors, and he knows multiple Muslim community members who are living donors. So they were able to donate while still alive a kidney or part of their liver. And so I always spread those messages and send those people as use those amazing people as references when talking about other people's religions, which I am not familiar with. Another one here is rich people are the first to get organs. This is false. When Infinite Legacy procures the organs, we allocate it to UNOS, as I said earlier, the United Network of Organ Sharing. The criteria that UNOS uses includes all medical matches. And when it comes to height, when it comes to compatibility, I'm not sure if blood type plays a part. Somebody asked that the other day, actually, and I was like, I need to actually check because maybe blood type is one of them. And it's all medical. So the organ has to be able to be safely placed within the body. A great example I always hear from one of my coworkers is Shaq's lung is not fitting in any of us. Okay. And Shaq's lung is not fitting inside of me or Alexander or most people in the chat, if not everybody. So it's more medical when it comes to height. So gender, age, wealth class, socioeconomic class, none of those come into play or are part of the criteria when it comes to organ donation, organ and tissue donation. Another one, I can't have an open casket funeral if I'm a donor. This is false. The whole organ donation and tissue donation process is respectful of the body and will always allow for open casket funerals or any whatever afterlife ceremony that your family has for the donor, that the family has for the donor. Babies and the elderly can't donate. We had this question earlier. That is false. People of all ages, sizes, races, all people are on there are, as I've mentioned already, over 100,000 people on the transplant waiting list. That includes elderly, that includes, unfortunately, young ones, babies. Newborn infants are on the transplant waiting list as well. And so all of those people can also donate, actually. And unfortunately, there are cases where young ones do because of their parents' decision after a baby's passes away. And of course, same thing for elderly people. After they pass away, they can donate as well. It doesn't necessarily have to go to another elderly person. Like I said, it's more so about the health conditions of the donor and how it matches with the health conditions of the recipient. Another one is my family would have to pay for it. This is false. This is false because any part of the donation process on the donor side, any part of the process that adds on money to either the hospital bill or adds on to the mortuary bill, the OPO, the local OPO takes care of. So there are no additional costs that come from organ donation that goes to the family. And finally, I think, yeah, I missed this one. You can't donate if you need an autopsy. This is also false. If there are any means or any criminal intentions that may be a part of a person's death, then of course the chief medical examiner's office will go first and do an autopsy. But if the organs and tissues are still transplantable, then they can still be procured after an autopsy is completed to the full extent. And there are still different advancements and stuff in medicine where they can preserve it long enough while the chief medical examiner's office still performs an autopsy. So all of those things are still possible while still being able to donate. And I'm going to jump back really quick. When it comes to whole body donation, organ and tissue donation still can take place. When you do whole body donation, it doesn't necessarily mean everything, including the organs as well, goes with the body. You can still choose to be an organ and tissue donor and still choose to donate your body to science. So those are just things that we'll just work with other organizations to make sure everybody knows exactly what's going on. And that's where professional communication comes into play. So of course, thank you all so much for listening to me talk and about and becoming more aware and being open to becoming more aware about organ, eye, and tissue donation. Like I said earlier, I was going to share with you all a few different of our social medias where we upload pretty much daily, if not weekly, more stories and more different avenues that we talk about. But mostly it's about the stories the positive stories that come out of organ, eye, and tissue donation, because there are a lot of negative stories out there. So we want to make sure that we combat it with facts and make sure everybody understands that the positive benefits that come from it outweigh those nasty myths and misconceptions, you guys. So make sure you definitely follow one or multiple of those social medias. I appreciate you all for listening and being amazing. And yeah, I'm still here to answer more questions if any of you have any. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much again, Dwight, for presenting this information. It's certainly not talked about enough, in my opinion, you know, when we're younger, but any age really. So the information is very much appreciated. Do you mind going onto the Infinite Legacy website real quick just to showcase it before we answer any questions as
I
well?
don't mind whatsoever.
Yeah, but if you all have any questions, please raise your hand in Zoom. Any comments as
Story
well?
of Hope. That's where we keep all the stories, not just
Mhm.
recipients, but also donors as well. Oh yeah, it's even got a little section here where you can see you can actually pick.
Oh, you're still on your slides.
Ah, there it is. I
Yes.
forgot. I forgot. You have to like go and hit a
That's
different.
okay. But again, if you all have any comments for Dwight, anything you'd
There we
like
go.
to share, please raise your hand in Zoom after we,
There we go.
while or after we go over the website. So, yep, here's the website as well. Thank you for showcasing it.
Oh, no problem. Stories of Hope under our work is where you can find multiple stories on different recipients, donors. Where usually donor family members speak on them. And there we have a ton. And there's actually, I never noticed this, there's a little filter button here where you can specifically find stories like we're in memory of donor in spirit. Those are people who were registered donors, but unfortunately either passed away or couldn't be a donor due to the way they passed away, or because they or probably because of health conditions wouldn't allow them to be a donor. And so and there are many different stories to pick from and actually choose and read up on. Let's see. Barbara said to me earlier, your ID has if you're an organ donor on it. Yes, it does. Well, it can show that. That's actually something that I get from a lot of people where they ask like, oh, or that's pretty much another concern I hear sometimes. Like people are concerned like, oh, if it's on my ID, you know, people hospitals aren't going to be as pressed to save my life. And even though that's not factual, I also do tell people like, but if that is a concern for you, I completely accept that. And if that is the only thing holding you back, good news, you don't have to put it on your ID if you do not want to. You can go straight to the website and you can register there and it'll never show up on your ID because the DMV is not the only place where you can sign up to be a registered organ donor.
Thank you, Dwight. Any other parts of the website that you want to highlight before we go into questions?
Okay. No other part I would want to highlight per se. I think is this where no, that's not it. I was thinking there was or you can, oh, okay, yes. So if you'd want to register on the website and you came to Infinite Legacy's website first, you would just, as you can see up here, it says register now, and you would click on whichever state you're in, DC, Maryland, Virginia, or just go to the Donate Life America website in general. And from there, it'll take you to, I believe it'll just take you straight to to the registry form where you will fill out this basic information here. And then you will officially be registered into the National Donor Registry list. Now, to be clear, if you go to one of the state ones, you can still do it, but you'll still be on the National Donor Registry list. So you don't have to, if you move, you don't have to do it for that state, but you can if you want to.
Thank you for highlighting that. Yeah, it seems like a really easy process. And again, thank you so much for the information.
No problem.
Dwight, so we have two hands and a question in the chat, so we'll go in that order. But please make sure you all stay on for our poll at the end. Anne, you had a question or a comment for Dwight today?
Dwight, I really got a different perspective on what you about donations. I thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. And when you mentioned the baby, my cousin just donated bone marrow to her baby. And I was really amazed that such a young baby, 6 months old, could get a donation. So, and when you mentioned it, I brought back I was concerned. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you answering my questions.
Oh, there's no problem, Miss Ann. Thank you so much for having those questions, and thank you for sharing that as well. We definitely love to see it. I see that actually quite a bit with a mother or even a dad. To be honest, it's more moms who donate to their children. I know a wonderful, beautiful, amazing Black woman, 50 years old. She donated to her son. I believe it was part of her liver. She donated to her son when he was still very young. And of course, she doesn't regret it, obviously. And I believe he's in his 30s now. And like she's so proud when she comes in. She's one of the volunteers who comes around and helps out with events from time to time. She's super happy about it. And she loves talking about organ donation as well and how it saved her son's life, how she saved her son's life.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Dwight,
Yes,
as well. And
yeah.
Anne.
Thank you so much, Dwight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. Ms. Dina, you had a question or a comment for Dwight. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, Dwight. I have a question, comment. I know this is basically speaking of organ donation. My concern is skin grafting. There are many people that are overweight, the 600-700 pound people. Once they get gastric bypass, they lose a lot of fat weight skin. And I wanted to know, is that extra cut surgical skin removed to be used for burnt victims?
So thank you for the question, Ms. Dina. I am not 100% sure about that. I'm not sure what they do with the with those specific ones. I know tissue skin donations are more commonly used for skin grafts for burn survivors. I do know that, but I can't speak to exactly if the ones that are removed during those surgeries on overweight people, if those are specifically used for skin grafts as well. I can't actually know the answer to that myself, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dina. And just going in order, I see you have your hand up, Ms. Yvonne, but I hope this is your question. Yep, we always check out the chat. So Ms. Yvonne asks, when a person is an organ donor, what does the hospital need to know so they can harvest your organs?
So the hospital, the only thing the hospital needs to know, the administrative side, they know if you yourself already registered on the National Registered Donor Registry. They'll already see that on their side. And so they'll let Infinite Legacy know, and then Infinite Legacy will be prepared if procurement needs to take place. Other than that, the hospital doesn't need to know anything. That's not even a question they would ask you. Sometimes if a doctor, from my knowledge, doctors, when I've talked to doctors before, sometimes they do tell me that they talk to families about it sometimes if the family asks. But doctors, nurses, anybody who works at the hospital, isn't really supposed to talk about organ donation, because we want those separations. We don't want it to be associated with hospitals, because we want hospitals to be seen as people who are only concerned with saving lives, because that is what they are. And so they will answer a question, but that's not their duty. That's our duty, which is why we also still have people on site for any questions or anything. And we have family services go to the families. But what do they need to know? Really nothing.
Thank you, Ms. Yvonne, for your question. I hope
Just-
that answered it.
Sorry about that. The only thing they need to know is when to call Infinite Legacy. That's the
Oh,
only thing they need to know.
yes. Once again, thank you so much for your chats. And I know everything, all the questions y'all are sharing, I'm sure many others in your life yourselves have asked. So it's very, very helpful. You may never know who you might be helping, or know that who's had an organ donation or is on the list, or who has donated or is a recipient. So it's more common than we think. So it's great that we're talking about it. We have two more hands. Love it. Again, we have still a couple minutes for questions, which is great, or comments. So please ask away while Dwight is still on. Miss Dolores, thanks so much. Have a question or comment for Dwight?
Good afternoon. It's a question.
Mhm.
When you register in one state and then you move to another state, does that affect you on a list because of people already registered in that state?
So, when it comes to which state you are registered, when you register, no matter what state you're in, your name is added to the National Donor Registry. Whichever state you live in, it affects like their registry numbers. So if you were to move to Maryland, if you lived in DC, you moved to Maryland, the only thing that would change is that they would say, oh, there's one more person who is registered Maryland resident and one less person who's a DC registered resident. But your name is on the country's donor list whenever you sign up. I always tell people, because sometimes it's a couple years and it's probably not on their like new license if they move to Maryland, and they always say, "Oh, I actually don't remember, and it's not on this license." And I was like, it doesn't hurt to sign up again, because the Donate Life, who manages the list, they check it. I'm not sure when, it's either quarterly or monthly. They do check for duplicates, and they'll take out the duplicate, and they can't take organs twice from you, so.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for clarification of the myth that's going around.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Dolores. Yeah, we have a couple of Doloreses in the call, so
I
thank you
see.
so much. Yeah, so now we have Miss Washington. You have a question or comment for Dwight today? Thanks so much.
Yes, good afternoon. Yeah, you got me kind of confused that time. You say Dolores and I wasn't able to speak. So thank you over to Dolores. But anyway, my question is, if I'm not a organ donor and one of my family members need a kidney, and I decided that I was going to give it one of my kidneys, how does that process work?
So that would be the living donation process. That's not through Infinite Legacy per se. That would be, I'm not 100% which organization takes care of it. I do know you can you can go to either, of course, your doctor or one of the 8 transplant centers within the DMV to start that process, and they'll be able to help you and like your family member through it, like see if you all both even match. And then of course they do an assessment on the donor's health to see if you can live comfortably with just one kidney. So a lot of precautions are taken. So the will to want to do it, to want to help, is the starting step.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I was wondering. Thank you. I appreciate this.
No
answer.
problem. No problem. Thank you again for the question. And thank you, Yvonne, for the question as well. And thank you for your question earlier.
Thank you, Dolores. Any other thoughts or comments for Dwight today? Again, please raise your hand. Again, any questions or comments or anything that you noticed today or learned today, wanted to share. But this session will be posted on our YouTube channel as well. So if we have any other questions, raise your hand. But before we end for today, Dwight, do you have any memorable experiences, or what is your favorite aspect of working at Infinite Legacy?
My favorite aspect of it, I love more specifically, just to think about it, because there are a lot of great opportunities. I get to meet wonderful people, including obviously recipients. That's one of my bigger ones, when I get to meet a recipient. Because even though they got theirs maybe years ago, I still feel like this is what I'm working towards. I'm working towards helping people understand that that's what it's about. It's about these people. It's about saving, helping, enhancing those people's lives as much as possible, which is something I already believed before I had this job, because I signed up to be a registered organ donor when I was 17. And so I would have to say the biggest thing that I love the most about my job is when I can see that I've effectively made a change in somebody's mindset when it comes to organ donation. There's been many times where people have come to my table at an event, or when I'm tabled, in the community somewhere, and I'd say, "Oh, this is about organ donation," and of course they throw their hands up and they're like, "Oh, I don't want anything to do with that," and they try to step away. And sometimes, I'm pretty verbally sly. I'm a pretty fast talker sometimes, so I'm able to get them, reel them back to the table, and at that point, we actually can have a great conversation where I'm able to talk to these people, find out their actual concerns, and address those directly. And I always love to believe that they'll spread that information when they head out there, or at least I've started the process for them to think about it and not just dismiss it immediately.
Well, thank you so much for that insight. We really appreciate it and your point of view and all the information that you shared today, Dwight. So if you all enjoyed, if you had fun, if you learned something new, if you learned about a myth that's now dispelled, if you again had a lot of fun or are going to share this with your friends and family, please raise your hand in Zoom as we say goodbye to Dwight. Again, if you enjoyed our session today, if you had a lot of fun, if you learned something new, if you're going to share this information with your friends and family, please raise your hand in Zoom. Thank you. Love it. I love all the hands. Again, thank you so much, Dwight, for coming on. We'll see you once again in April. So let's make sure all to come on to learn more about organ donation then. But let's all say thanks so much to Dwight and make sure you stay on for our poll. Thank you so much, Dwight. And hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, Dwight.
Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you. Dwight, let me ask you a question.
Very good.
Does your insurance pay for that for both parties? I mean, if you're a donor?
If you are a donor, then the OPO takes care of, because if you're
he said he's just looking for leftover. I said, are you babysitting?
Thank you, Dwight.
I didn't hear the answer. I was
watching TV, but the mother went
real quick. So when you're a deceased donor, then the OPO pays for any part of the procedures that happen. If you are receiving an organ, your insurance, depending on what insurance you have, they can potentially help pay for your surgery to receive the organ.
Oh, they can help, but you're not for sure.
Yes,
they can assist. Yes, with payments.
No, okay. So, in other words, I guess I'm trying to figure out, will they pay for all of it, or does the person who's donating have to come out their pocket as far as being a volunteer in helping in the donation?
It's mostly an insurance thing. Are you referring to living donation?
Well, that or even volunteer. I mean, even if you're not the living, like for instance, if I was the person that donate, I'm a donator. Mm-hmm. And like I say, one of my family members, passed away, and it's in my will or whatever that I wanted to donate my liver. So when that time comes, I just want to know when and I decide to go ahead and donate my liver, will my insurance, how do I want to say, will my insurance pay for that part by me being a donator?
If you
Is it covered under my insurance? Is it covered under my insurance as a donator?
as a donator, you're deceased. So no.
No. I'm not talking I'm talking about me being alive. I'm the one that's giving up my liver.
Then yeah, most of that stuff would go through insurance, and like I said, there are different insurances, so that is a case by case basis.
Oh, okay, case by case. So that's something you would want to look into. Well, not only that, if you donate, you donate. I just want to know. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you guys again. Yeah, have a great rest of
your week.
You too.
Thank you, Dwight. Thank you so much.